Hey Luis, how's it going? This is your weekly review. Thanks for submitting this. This looks great. I like it from the front and from the side. Maybe if you could put some reference there, it might help. By there, I mean maybe, over in this part. You can even put up multiple references if you want with image plane and stuff. That might help the conversation a little bit. But anyways, taking a look at this, I think overall you're off to a strong start. So, but I do have questions, and they're questions that are a little difficult for me to answer, but I will pose them to you um, because you have the reference, and some of these are artistic choices. But some of the things I'm noticing, so let me mark the keys here, just so I can jump between them. There's a little key there, but I'm going to ignore that one because it's a tiny change. So let's see. Yep. Okay, cool. So that seems to be the keys in the full cycle. It seems to be on twos for the most part. There's some little foot twisting happening otherwise, but I'm just going to try to talk about the keys. So one of the things I notice when I play it is if I'm watching like where the neck meets the top of the torso, right? There's a lot of like kind of quick and jerky motion there. And I think that, when you go from a pose like this to this, you may want to drag the top, you may want to drag the torso a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's either going to drag behind or lead the action. And you may want to look at your reference to see if you can tell from the reference if it's dragging behind like this, and if the lower half of the body was all the same, if it's kind of like dragging that way, or if it's actually leading the action, which means if this green is where you're headed, then it would need to kind of precede that motion a little bit from the upper body here. Hopefully I would assume there's a little something like that on your reference. It may be subtle, it may be tiny, difficult to determine, but it's going to help make some of these bigger moves on the upper part of your torso have a little bit more weight to it, a little bit better spacing. There's a pose, yeah, okay. So it's like one of the trickier parts of this animation is going to be making that little like skip. I'm going to call it a skip, but where the foot kind of slides. This is I like the strength of this pose. You know what I mean? Like this leg being straight right there has a lot of appeal. It's a nice design. It's a nice choice. I really do like that. I would maybe tip the pelvis a little bit to show that the weight is like fully on this leg before it transitions over. It's a tiny thing, but I think that will help. It transitions over, and I'm wondering if when this foot moves down here, it's almost like it gets a little weightless because like here you have this little, okay, so you have this little subtle here on the pelvis, right? Which is great. And it's really, I think that is part of what is going on here. So when the character throws their weight screen left, I suspect that what also is happening here when you have it rotating up is that's what makes the foot here weightless enough to do that little rotation, to twist on the ball of the foot or to slide ever so slightly. I forget if it slides out or in, but you really need to sell this, like, it's almost like the character's doing these tiny little jumps, right? So I like how the pelvis goes up here, and that needs to like kind of coincide with when this foot is doing its adjustment, getting light, getting kind of weightless. So I feel like when this center of gravity comes over, again, I'm giving all these notes without seeing the original footage, but maybe this is coming over a little prematurely. Like, so it's like the center of gravity throws itself up over here, and that's when your foot is doing the readjust, and that's when it would come kind of down, you know, on, and have the weight be on the red leg after the adjustment, you know. And so I think much more simply, if I stated this much more simply, which sorry if this is getting complicated, I would keep the side-to-side motion going a little bit here, and keep it up and over to the side still while you're doing this foot adjust, and only have this downward motion on the pelvis settle once the foot adjust is done. And then you're into this pose, and again, I really like this pose. This has a lot of appeal, like the opposite side of this pose. I think that's really cool. So I feel like those are the two main things kind of like catching my eye, maybe to help get the weight like a little stronger. I feel like, I'm guessing that that's probably what's going on in the reference. When I look at it from the side, the only thing that's kind of like maybe needs to be resolved is how this heel is like down, then it's up, and then it's down again. That's going to be like really difficult for you to, you know, like spline out of there. And then I would just watch, like, this foot maybe should still be a little bit more angled down as it passes through, almost like where the toe's just barely dragging off the ground. Maybe, you know, if your foot's here, again, if the reference is showing something specific, or this ruins the feel to the overall action, then, you know, make your own decisions about this stuff. But I would imagine here the foot would want to be like lifted, continuing that like upward lift from how the heel is like here to here. Maybe it's like up here or something. I don't know that spacing is the exact right spacing, but maybe something like that would be a little more, help you get like a nicer arc on picking up that heel and heading down with it into the passing pose. Because here the foot feels really flat, and maybe it's okay to keep it a little bit like this. Again, your reference will give you guidance. But yeah, this bend here feels a little much, but maybe it's fine. Maybe it's just the rig. So never mind that I say anything. And then, you know, the hands and the upper body, I think, you know, maybe they seem fine to me, that there's not a lot going on there. There is something about this blue hand and what it's doing. If it's like in a pocket, I'm assuming, right? It's a little hard to read, like, what the concept is there. So there might be something we can do with posing the hand a little bit, like maybe having the thumb. You could actually have the thumb try to intersect like the waistband here, like have it get cut a little bit and have it actually go inside the rig's body or something. I'm not sure because you have no clothes. You have no clothes. But yeah, I think it's a minor thing, but otherwise this is a nice strong start. You know what I mean? I think you're off to a a good place. Just a little clean. Oh yeah, one more thing that I did notice that I wanted to mention is like there's a lot of times in the body here where I feel like it maybe should just be leaning a little bit more forward. Like, so if this is the blue leg, maybe you just have a little bit more of a forward lean to the overall pose, because they have this forward motion, and I feel like a lot of times it feels like maybe their weight is a little too far back, you know. Just something to consider. Again, it would be like an overall adjustment. But anyways, nice strong start. I'm excited about this one. I want to see how it develops. I can't wait to see it next week. And yeah, keep up the good work. Thanks.